Hi everyone, my name is Kristina Lao. I am an entertainment consultant and an artist advocate residing on the unceded and ancestral territories of the Musqueam, Squamish and Tsleil-Waututh nations. I started with a degree in international business, and then I trained at Hong Kong University in music and was the first Hong Konger to ever attend the London School of Musical Theatre. At this point, I have over 15 years experience in media and entertainment, and I consciously work 50% in front of the lens and 50% behind. I've had 4 years experience as a board member, have produced over 300 events through thorough resume and career coaching, job seeking support and career matchmaking. I have supported over 1,000 graduates and emerging industry professionals to help them prepare and apply for creative jobs that suit their individual interests and long-term goals. There's a reason I'm telling you all of this, and in this particular way. I've given you tangible examples with specific context to the work that I've done, and hopefully at this point, you understand why it's me sitting on this side of the lens, ideally with a little more of your trust. My goal is to help you be able to do the same to the people who you would like to work with in your career. So, keep watching this video if you are looking for grants, if you're looking for more media coverage, if you're looking for creative representation of any kind, whether it's a publisher, a label, or a manager, for example. If you need to feel good about your current skills. If you're looking for a promotion at your workplace, you're looking to charge more money for your services, this video is essentially intended as a 101, but I think it's fundamental and we all need it, no matter where we are in the industry. So let's get started. Resumes. This is why creative resumes matter. They are not just an external document. This is the one page that shows you who you are as an artist or music industry professional in objective terms. When was the last time that you created or amended your resume? Probably a while. Here are the main things that you need to consider when you are creating your resume. Firstly, make a master resume. This is your editable document that you just throw dates, big achievements, and winning numbers into. It does not have to be pretty, but it does have to be specific. So that's your master resume. Make a focused resume. This is the resume that you derive from your master resume, which is based upon the ideal jobs at this particular point in your creative career. Always save your resume as a PDF so it doesn't show up weirdly on different devices or different programs. Keep it brief, 1 to 2 pages, and label it with your name. It's so easy to forget to do that, but it makes it so much easier to search for it. The keys to a great resume. Without going too deep into this, here's an exercise that I'd like you to do. Ask yourself 3 questions. How can I paint a mental picture with numbers? For example, saying you've recorded bands is not as clear as I've been the assistant engineer for over 100 recording sessions at award-winning studio recording X. What are some other subjective terms in there? How can I make them more objective? I call this painting by numbers. Thirdly, if I was the person looking for someone to hire or engage with, I ask myself, would I hire me? For example, if it's a grant application, ask yourself if that was your $20,000 in your bank account and you didn't know the person who was asking for it, what would you need to feel comfortable giving it to them? That's what you need to be articulating when it comes to your own resume. Let's do a case study together, and I'm going to use my own resume for ease. This is my focused arts and entertainment resume. So this is not a performance resume. So, like I said, we'll come back to the profile right at the end. I have my experience here on the right-hand side. So when I say paint by numbers, it's not just numbers, but it is recognizable names as well, or things that you can measure in various ways. So instead of just saying touring, I put national so that people understand the scope of that tour. Instead of just TV, I'm saying network and global advertising and TV campaigns. With the mentorship piece, I've got Creative Career Mentorship, including Music BC's Jumpstart, Creative BC, Equity in Emerging Film Stream. Workshop development is really important to highlight the names of the workshops that you've created. And then, previous experience before that, here's a really important point. If you have a company that isn't immediately recognizable in your opinion, it's really important to add a little bit of a profile underneath that company. So for example, this is where I've put that Prolific is a transmedia holdings company based in New York with an investment portfolio that has a lot of numbers. It has 4 Emmy Awards, 3 Oscars, 7 Grammys, 7 BAFTAs. You get the picture with numbers, I think, at this point, but I'm gonna keep drilling it in. So here are some of the key achievements. Numbers here, location, date of completion, more numbers, consulting for proposals in Australia, in Ghana, in Miami. And here's another important point as we go down experience. You can create experience sections for not necessarily paid experience as long as you're clear about it. People really do enjoy seeing what someone is passionate about. And in the gig-based economy right now, it is equally important to have valuable experience as it is to be paid always for that experience. So when I started Bombshell Brunches with my co-founder, we weren't paid for that, but we have learned so much and it is an incredible speaking point. And we've since made money from it, as you will be able to see. So we've secured this much money in funding. This is where it's airing. This is how many people we have sourced and led. It's really important to paint the number of how big a team is or how small a team is, because subconsciously for an employer or someone who's working with you, they get a scope of whether you can work really well in a small team or whether you're used to working in big corporate environments. Everything about this is about helping someone to paint a mental picture of you, especially considering they don't know you otherwise. So as you can see, with these experience points, there are a lot of numbers or a lot of measurable points. There's not a lot of subjectivity here. With the recording school that I worked at, I have a description again. I have numbers in terms of the number of workshops. The scholarships, I could even put how many thousands of dollars in scholarships we gave away, just to, again, paint the picture. 50 plus events per year. These are the types of organizations that we worked with. 400 industry placements. These are all paintable numbers. Here's a final point. A lot of people think that hospitality jobs or retail jobs or jobs that are not necessarily music specific are not necessarily as valuable. That is completely untrue. So many people I know in hospitality, so many people I know in retail have developed their core skill sets that are so valuable in the music industry. So I've kept this one in here, which is when I worked in London at a cocktail bar as the client relations and business development manager. And I'll be totally honest, it's because I'm a terrible server. So they wouldn't let me make cocktails because I'm useless at that. But I was hired as part of the opening team, and my key achievements are administrative and business related. Those things, because we're in a music industry, are also really important. So remember that your superpower could be filing. Your superpower could be things that are necessary and not necessarily as glamorous in the industry, but they're very hireable. I always ask who is going to be my reference, and I tell them that they're my evergreen reference. For example, Kevin knows that at any point someone might call Kevin and ask for a reference. But if you don't have someone like that, I really highly recommend keeping it off. And then if you are using this to apply for anything in particular, get consent from the person that you're asking to be a reference. On the left-hand side, just quickly, you have education and skills. So I will caveat by saying that with skills, mine are a little bit softer because I'm in leadership or management positions. However, there is still numbers here. With the education, another point to remember, if you graduated with distinction or your attendance was very high and you're proud of anything that you did within this particular time at university or at further education or any education, highlight it. The other thing with skills, before I leave, is it's really important to articulate what you can use. You might think it's every day that people use social media, but you being proficient in TikTok, which I am not, is useful to someone who wants a social media strategy as part of the position that they're hiring for. Or if you're in a show and you want to impress a manager, you could be talking about how many followers you have on social media, how engaged you are, that sort of thing. Also put things like if you have grade 8 theory, if you have any qualifications that are like certified, because it gives people, again, an objective concept of who you are as a person and what you're trained in. And also, it shows that you complete things. That's a really, really big subconscious factor when it comes to engaging with people, is understanding how many things they are good at completing. It really makes a big difference. And finally, for me, in my resume, and you don't have to do this, this can be in your own terms, but I have a separate section just about the numbers. And it allows people to see how many events I've run, how many grants I've gotten, how many panels I've spoken on, and so on and so on. That can also be key highlights or career highlights. You can put your portfolio there, you could put your any awards that you've won as a music industry professional, but just have a think about it and remember those key elements of who am I, what is the value exchange between me and the person that I'm engaging with, and would I hire me? Finally, with the profile is essentially a word-based summary of all of the metrics that you have in your resume. So for me, I decided to put down, and also the profile can change. So if you want to amend it a little bit for a specific grant that you're going for, or you want to amend it for a specific job that you're applying for, the profile's the best place to do it because, as you can see, it's the first place that people look at. So for me, over 10 years of experience, these are the key things that I've worked in. This is my past experience, some more numbers, 5 years in post-secondary arts education, managing industry relationships, and I'm making sure that I'm very conscious about the words that I'm using. Industry partnerships, strategic partnerships, national level projects, and what I care about. And I think that's really important. If you're not looking for a very particular job, then I would put what you care about and what you're passionate about and what you're constantly driving for at the end. If you are looking for a particular job, one of my favorite terms, for example, is to say, looking for a part-time position within a small, dynamic, and passionate company. That tells somebody the scope that you want to work within. It could alternatively be looking for management and to build out my team of music industry professionals in order to be able to grow to national level touring. So I hope that gives you a little bit of a more in-depth understanding of the numbers and the objectivity that you need in a resume. Okay, we're going to talk about communication. It might sound obvious, but communication is the cornerstone of relationship building. and relationships are the cornerstone of the creative industry. To me, communicating well helps you to build relationships, create opportunities, and enjoy career sustainability. Remember, communication is continuous, and this is a long game industry. It is not just about writing to someone to ask for something. It's about creating a valuable, ongoing exchange. Your reputation takes years to build and minutes to break. Let's get you set up to make sure that you are communicating your best version of yourself in every interaction. Preparedness. So in events, in gig-based work, and in artistic and non-artistic application, being prepared is essential. Before you begin communicating in any way, you want to know A, what you have to offer, B, how you're going to prove that, and C, whether you have those pieces of proof ready. So for example, think about how many different pieces go into an event production. And with this example, let's assume that we've already applied for and received some funding for it. So we need to book the artists, book the venue, gather artist information, book the vendors, book the MC, book the sound techs and backline if necessary, create a marketing strategy, design the food or drink menus, marketing materials, press release, graphics, images, design the merch or sellable materials or giveaways, reach out to press, send the VIP invites, design the lineup, sell the tickets. Oh, remember what the pricing is for the tickets, right? That's right at the beginning of it. Those are just a few of the things that need to happen. Now think about how many of those points I just said may require your information. If you're an artist, that pertains to some of these things. If you are another part of that production team, that's still relevant to you. You might need to have your resume ready. You might need to have your bio ready. You might need to be organizing different things. So the more you have at the ready, the more bookable you are, the better your chances are of getting future gigs. So take the time to have your bios, 1 sentence, 1 paragraph, and 3 paragraph, your links, your approved photos, radio-ready songs if you're a musician, labeled correctly so that they're easy to find, any press materials that you might find useful, any portfolio materials that you might find useful, and an updated resume, of course. This might seem straightforward, but the reality is most people don't have these things ready. And if they do, they're often not up to date. So book yourself half a day to create what you can and label everything appropriately so that everything is easily searchable. And then you can take an hour once a month to just revisit it and make sure you're the most up-to-date that you can be. Okay, written communication. Here are the basic elements of any kind of first written communication that you have with someone. A subject line, who you are, if you have a connection to them, or how the connection is, why you're writing to them in particular, i.e. how they are the right person to write to, what the call to action for them is, if there are any deadlines or timelines that you need a response by or that you need to deliver something else by, and any links that might be appropriate. Then always follow up. Follow up, follow up, follow up. Some people are really busy with hundreds of emails to deal with a day. Following up is never a problem. Let's talk about verbal communication for a second. So you might need to pick up the phone and talk to someone in PR about an upcoming show. You might need to have a meeting with a potential manager. There are so many different reasons that we have interactions with people on a daily basis. This is not media training, that is separate, but this is basic verbal communication. Here are a few quick steps to take in under 10 minutes before every verbal interaction. And my goal for you is to be able to do this in 10 minutes or less and get used to the habit of doing this so that you can create a routine behavior as you move into every interaction that you have as a music industry professional. So number one, I always find it really useful to write things down. Write down who you're meeting with, their job title, and their key responsibilities in that job. Write down why they're valuable to you, specifically to you, why it's so important for you to speak to them or connect with them, and why you are valuable to them. For example, I would say, I have a solid, upbeat 2-hour set, and I'm bookable. I've played over 100 shows, so I'm reliable. So that's my value. And they've booked national tours for artists that I love, so they're valuable to me. You understand why it is you're speaking to them, and you walk in knowing your value as well as what they can bring to the table. Then write down one interesting thing that you find out about them. Often this is online. It's pretty easy to search people these days and recent things that they have been doing or care about. So it could be a professional achievement, it could be a recent award, it could be something that will become a question or demonstrate that you've looked into their work. Demonstrating that you know something about them shows an empathy and an interest in what they do, which is so important in any value exchange-based relationship. Then, review your resume for some quick refreshers on what you've recently achieved or some numbers that you think will be useful for the interaction that you're about to have. Write down what you'd ideally like to achieve from that interaction and be realistic about it. After the interaction, write down one observation or note and how you intend to follow up, i.e. when and with what, and then do that. So here are a few what I call rehearsal tips. If you're anything like me, you can feel a little bit uneasy about making new routines, especially when it comes to verbal communication, which can seem to feel really natural to certain people and very awkward to others. It was very awkward for me. So if you are feeling uneasy about making this into a routine, here are some ways that you can acknowledge them in under an hour. Write to someone you already know and send them something that made you think of them. This is a really great practice. You can do this with friends. You can send them something that you think would be useful or beneficial to their life, or just something funny and entertaining. Or you can write to a professor and send them something that you were talking about at a recent lecture. Secondly, draft an email to someone that you want to hear from and get a friend to read it, not necessarily a friend from the industry. Ask if they know what you're asking for, why you're asking for it, and what might be missing. You can ultimately ask, would you give me that if I was asking and you didn't know me? Thirdly, one thing that I love to do is ask an industry professional to go and have a coffee with you and make sure it's someone that you actually don't want anything from. It's really important to say that part, because if you think that there's something that you could get out of that coffee or that person, you'll end up putting a lot of pressure on yourself. But if you're just curious about the industry itself, it's a really great way to get to know someone and to get to just actively listen to their story and their experience. You'll find that when you ask someone for a coffee just because you want to learn, it's very hard for them to say no, if they have the time, of course. But this is a really great way to start normalizing the other human beings that work and exist in your industry and getting to know the industry as a whole without a focused expectation of that other person. And that can really help set you up to have great communication with people in the long term. Okay, let's recap. Here's a really brief summary of this talk. Number one, on the resume side, make a master resume, which, remember, it doesn't have to be pretty, it just has to have all of the information and the numbers, and make a focused resume, which is the one that you have for what you are looking for right now. And before you send them, make sure that they're in PDF form and make sure that they're labeled. Resumes are so much more than job application tools. They help you to define your skills, to negotiate for new positions, and reinforce your objective successes so that you can refer back to them for when you're speaking to someone or applying for things. Make sure Ultimately, with everything you put in your resume, you're painting by numbers. Make it objective. People cannot grasp or paint a mental picture around subjective terms. So put a number to it or put a recognizable brand to it if possible. On the communication side, remember that communication is continuous. Always be prepared with your toolkit, and that will make you the most bookable, hireable. People just remember how quickly you respond and how ready you are. It happens all the time, I promise. Written communication is all about succinct messages with clear calls to action and very clear timelines. This is a very fast-paced industry, as you know. So being clear, being succinct, and being ready and prepared for anything is so valuable. Before you have verbal interactions, that 10-minute setup honestly makes my life so much easier, and hopefully it will for you. The more you do it, the more your brain will get used to it, and soon it will come pretty naturally. Finally, follow up. I'm just going to keep saying this. All communication is continuous. I love hearing from people on an ongoing basis, and I will always make time for people who are generous. So this is the final little piece of advice that I have here. Transactions can be tiring, but generosity generates generosity, and gratitude generates gratitude. So, for example, if someone offers you support or connections, if you've written to them, especially if they don't know you, keep in touch. This includes organizations, it includes collectives, it includes individuals, and it should be included in your daily professional workflow. So if you enjoyed this, for example, I encourage you to write to Music BC and say thank you and become a member. If you found something in here that someone might find useful, send it to them. Share the story. Tag Music BC. These things are not just for the organization. They also highlight to the community that you are sharing information, expressing gratitude, and acknowledging the efforts of those who care about the same industry as you do. It's so nice when someone shares something with you that you care about or refers you as a professional to someone else. So this is exactly your chance to make that something you do regularly as well. Thank you for your time today. And thank you for Liam and the people at Showstream Technology for being behind the scenes. I hope it helps you build a fantastic confidence in communicating, pursuing, and achieving your career goals. And Music BC 100% has your back in that. So thanks to the team there too.